the design and the finish first, because during the presentation, they spent like 5 minutes talking about the color black on this phone. It is, I mean, it's a nice black, it's a matte finish, and I've always preferred this kind of muted black look instead of the super glossy black finishes that Samsung usually puts on their Galaxy S phones. But I don't know if it's like super special, right? If they hadn't told me that they had spent a crazy amount of effort and time to create something more unique looking, I would have just assumed this was just a well-engineered and well-made but regular black finish. Okay, onto the kind of design of this phone. The most iconic part of this phone is gonna be the camera area, right? It's shared between this phone and all the other S21 phones. It's got the two curved corners, and I like the look. Now, when I first saw the leaked images of this stuff last year, I didn't really like the design aesthetic of this camera area. Maybe I've seen it so much that it's grown on me. In real life, they've done it well. There is a very thick camera hump, and even compared to like the S20 Ultra from last year. So the camera hump on the previous generation, this didn't really embrace the hump, right? They just kind of made the camera segment stick out just on the camera component. But here, because the camera area just goes right up to the edge, it gets really thick at the corner of the phone. The rest of it doesn't feel as chunky, like if you grip this phone in a regular fashion away from that camera hump. It feels like a big, thick phone, but it's just this corner that's on another level. Now, inside this chunky zone, you have a new camera system. So it's a 4-lens camera, and because of the new hardware, you get some cool camera capabilities. You get some multi-camera recording, so you can record from the rear-facing cameras at the same time as the front-facing stuff. So you get like 2 camera streams at once, and the Snapdragon 888 or the Exynos variant will be able to handle that without any issues. And in the director's mode, you can view and choose between the different cameras on the back. There's a lot of video streams being piped in at the same time, and you'll be able to view and select it all in real time. It's a lot of processing capability on this camera system, and it's partly due to the camera hardware as well as the SoC itself. Now, the most interesting thing on this camera system to me is the zoom capability. So like last year, it has the 100x space zoom, but the hardware and the software both seem improved to be able to execute this idea in a way better manner. So right off the rip, you're looking at a 10x optical zoom, which is improved from last year's optics. But another big thing is the software. So they now have zoom lock. When you're dealing with, trying to snap a picture from something that's super far away, which is when you'd use 100x zoom, handshake is a real issue. Like even the slightest movement in your hand amounts to a huge movement in your framing. So Samsung now has a zoom lock where if you hold your camera steady for a couple of seconds on a point of interest, it'll recognize that as the thing you're trying to take a photo of, and it'll lock onto that, just to allow you to take steadier shots when you're using that 100x zoom. And you can also set it manually as well by tapping on the screen. Now on the back of it, you also have a second telephoto lens. So you have your 10x optical as well as a 3x optical. So depending on how far you zoom in to your shot, it'll switch between the two different lenses. And that's nice to see. Like it just gives you a nice range of optical clarity on your zooms. Now the screen up front is really nice. It's 1440p up to 120 Hertz, and because it's an LTPO panel, it can downclock pretty aggressively. It can reach 10 Hertz when it wants to, just for energy efficiency, and it's also bright, 1500 nits, but keep in mind when it comes to nits, it's not linear. Like just because it's, let's say 25% higher nit count, it doesn't mean it's 25% brighter to the perception of your eye. It's probably half that, just because our eyes are more logarithmic. It's some nerdy stuff, but it's not gonna be 25% brighter than a screen in terms of how we visually perceive it. But it is a very bright screen. Now, there's also a new fingerprint sensor. It's Qualcomm's 2nd gen ultrasonic sensor, and it's supposed to be 77% bigger than the previous generation, as well as 50% faster, but we'll get in the proper review of this phone. Now, in terms of the other hardware, there's no support for micro SD, which is strange for a Samsung device, especially one that shoots 8K videos. And in the box, there's no charger, there's no earphones, but there is a charging cable, thanks to that other company. Now, I want to end off this video with the talk of the S Pen. So S21 Ultra supports S Pens, which is a very new and interesting inclusion for Galaxy S phones. Now this only works on the S21 Ultra, doesn't work on the S21 Plus or the S21. Now this pen is it's a separate purchase. So I believe the pen is $40, and the case, if you want to house your pen in a complete package, is a, I think, $60 or $70 purchase. Now, my initial thought when I first saw this thing like at the announcement was like, that's weird, right? Not just because that this is new for a Galaxy S phone, but this package, when you look at it, is very unassuming. It doesn't look like a complete package, the way that Note phones do, right? When you have a Note, the pen, it's built right into the device. There's a slot right for it, and if you don't use it or you use it, it doesn't matter because it's part of the phone, comes with it, whatever, right? On the S21 Ultra, I think for a lot of people, they look at this and like, that's just, that can't be as good as a Note. But having used this just for a little bit of time, I will say that, first of all, is a thicker pen. This feels like the girth of like a chopstick, let's say. I don't know why that came to my mind. Don't racially judge me. But the pen that comes in the Note is a very slim and slender unit. Every time I pull this out of every Note I've ever reviewed, it doesn't feel like a proper pen. It just feels like a secondary thought that, and they had to keep these things small, right? Because it's got to fit into the Note device. This guy, because it's attached on the side, you can make it a little bit thicker, and it's like this rubberized soft touch material. It just feels a lot better. And when I used this felt nice. This felt like a legitimate writing tool. This feels the way that like a stylus should on any kind of portable device. I've always thought that the pens that came with the Note, they're like dinky little tools that are just like, if you need a pen, you got one. But this is like, if you're someone who uses a pen regularly, I think you're gonna like this a lot more than the pen in the Notes. But you do have to, number one, purchase it separately, and number two, store it outside of the device, which for some people might be a huge negative. I look at this like it's a really nice value add, way more than I thought it would. Now, keep in mind that this is just a first impression of the S Pen hardware itself. The capabilities and functionality of this isn't as robust as the one that comes on the Note, right? This has Bluetooth connectivity, and you can control stuff in the air, and if you walk away from the S Pen, like the device will let you know that you're separating from it. So there's definitely advantages to it, but this is nice. And I just thought of something. I think the reason why this one is rubberized with this soft touch material and not the regular Note, like this is a really slick material. Maybe it's because you got to put it in and out of the hole, and if it was this more frictioned rubbery material, it would scratch up or just cause issues. But on this one, because it's an externally mounted one, they can make this thing chonkier and nicer to grip. I like it. I think for a lot of people, this is going to be a nice option if your kind of workflow can make use of a good pen. And the case itself is this kind of industrial black silicone look. Yeah. Okay. That wraps up my first look at this stuff. I'll be doing full reviews on the S21 Ultra as well as the S21 and the S21 Plus in the near future, so stay tuned for those and be subscribed if you want to see that stuff. All right, hope you guys enjoyed. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. See you guys next time.